The movie begins with a girl named Becky. She is a very angry and aggressive teenager with many traumas in her past. After facing many hardships in her life, the main source of her pain is the killing of her father by a man named Dominic, years ago, which left her an orphan. Becky repeatedly finds herself placed in various foster homes, despite living in families with all the comfort and care needed. Becky hides her true feelings. Over the years, she has managed to cleverly escape from 3 different children's homes. Becky has a weakness for the forest, where she finds solace. She is incredibly resourceful, honing her physical skills and learning the art of weaponry. She has even set traps around her hideout, always on alert due to the trauma caused by her father's death. In the past year, Becky has been living with an elderly woman named Elena. The connection between the two is rooted in their very similar dispositions. They both share a disdain for people and for the social norms that bind them. Although Becky has a deep contempt for society, she must make a living. She chooses to work as a waitress at a restaurant, often interacting with annoying customers. On a particular day, a wealthy man's extravagant request infuriates Becky. For a moment, she imagines herself attacking him, although it remains just a fleeting thought. However, she often contemplates the possibility of acting on violent impulses if there were no legal consequences. When she gets home, Becky and Elena engage in late-night conversations, delving into various topics. A radio show informs them about a local organization called the NM Group. This group, associated with numerous acts of violence and vandalism, is causing unrest among the residents. The next day, in an unexpected twist, 3 members of the group, Anthony, DJ, and Sean, show up at Becky's workplace for a meal. From the moment DJ enters, his attitude is condescending. He patronizes Becky, comparing her to other women whom he derogatorily calls cheap. He even boldly suggests that she might be willing to accompany him to a hotel for a quick encounter. Anthony rudely orders coffee and underestimates Becky's profession. This disrespectful behavior reaches a boiling point for Becky, prompting her to intentionally pour hot coffee on Anthony, causing burns. Later, DJ reminds Anthony of the incident, provoking him even more. Proud Anthony, easily angered, decides to stalk Becky to seek revenge. That night, Becky rests, and her gaze falls upon a peculiar padlock-shaped emblem, an artifact related to Dominic and his associates from the previous film. Its significance continues to elude her. However, her tranquility is short-lived. The noise of an intruder startles Becky. Investigating the disturbance, she is caught in an ambush by Anthony and his men. In the ensuing chaos, DJ brutally injures her beloved dog, Diego, with a baseball bat. Sean, who does not want to participate, is forced to do so under the threat of expulsion from the group. The situation takes another turn when Elena, brandishing a shotgun, intervenes. She orders DJ to disarm himself, but Anthony, menacingly, points his gun at Elena. The scene culminates tragically with Elena shot in the head and Becky knocked unconscious by a blow. The next day, when she regains consciousness, Becky discovers that her dog, Diego, is missing. She realizes that Anthony and his accomplices have kidnapped him to emotionally hurt her. Subsequently, Becky discreetly buries Elena in the adjacent forest to their residence, hoping to keep the police at bay. The deaths of her parents and now the loss of Elena, the only person she loved, rekindle her anger. She decides to seek revenge on the trio responsible for this. To prepare, Becky gathers the necessary equipment, recalling a reference to a certain Daryl made by Anthony and his gang at the restaurant. Becky deduces that there are only 2 people in town with that name. The first Daryl she encounters is an elderly, sick woman dependent on an oxygen tank. Seeing no connection, Becky decides to track down the second Daryl, whose house is near a lake. Coincidentally, as Becky approaches, Anthony and his comrades also head to Daryl's house. Sean, still agitated by the events of the previous evening, attempts to confront Daryl. However, Anthony, dismissing his concerns, belittles Sean for overthinking. Daryl is the leader of the NM group, living together with his right-hand man, Twig. Pressured by Daryl about their whereabouts the previous night and the possession of the dog, Anthony invents an alibi, claiming that a car breakdown led them to the restaurant, where they stumbled upon the injured dog, taking it with them out of pure compassion. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to them, Becky has sneaked into Daryl's house. As she searches for information, Daryl and Sean abruptly enter the room for an urgent discussion. Sean, who turns out to be a new recruit of the NM group, is informed by Daryl about the ethics and objectives of the organization. During the exposition, he reveals a ledger with the identities of influential benefactors. He also discloses a plot to foment protests and revolts against the government. Sean is taken aback when he realizes that he has unwittingly affiliated himself with an extremist faction. Initially, he had hoped to simply engage in non-violent protests to express his disagreement with government policies. However, Daryl issues a menacing warning, implying that any deserter will be executed. Cornered, Sean feels compelled to comply. When they leave the room, Becky, who had hidden under the bed, emerges. She quickly photographs the plot of revolt at the town hall. She also steals the flash drive containing details of the main financiers. After sneaking out of the building, Becky heads to Daryl's storage unit. Surprisingly, she discovers an arsenal of powerful weapons, including explosives and gas masks, intended for the upcoming revolt at the town hall. At the same time, as Daryl and his group raise a toast to their accomplishments, an unexpected knock at the door disturbs them. Responding to it, Daryl discovers an active mobile phone, likely belonging to Becky. This revelation unnerves Sean, DJ, and Anthony. As DJ and Anthony continue to attempt to cover up the crime, Sean can't bear it any longer. Eventually, Anthony confesses to the crimes of the previous night, the killing of an elderly woman and the dog's abduction. In an attempt to appease Daryl, Anthony agrees to meet with Becky to return the dog amicably. However, unbeknownst to them, Becky, hidden behind the foliage, lures Anthony into the forest, where he unknowingly falls into a pit she had dug with heavy machinery. Although tempted to dispatch him quickly with a bullet, Becky opts for a more sinister method, refraining from immediate execution. She binds Anthony to a chair, gags him, and rigs a device that ties a grenade to Daryl's door handle. When Daryl opens the door, the mechanism activates, instantly ending Anthony's life. Witnessing this horrific scene, Sean, with a fragile heart, is consumed by fear, unwilling to pay the price for actions he did not commit. He takes the courageous step and leaves the group. However, Daryl, in a surprising act of betrayal, eliminates Sean, using only his physical strength. This terrifies DJ. DJ decides not to obey orders anymore. Meanwhile, Twig emerges from the house with a gun in hand, searching for any trace of Becky. Shortly after, Daryl receives a direct call from Becky, claiming to possess irrefutable evidence of his deeds, including the stolen flash drive with their illicit connections. When Twig goes outside to search for her, she strikes him with an arrow. Despite the injury, Twig returns home, and Daryl quickly removes the arrow. Without delay, Becky makes herself known and begins pursuit, running toward the arsenal. Simultaneously, Daryl instructs DJ to assist Twig, but DJ chooses to flee and abandons Twig. Becky cunningly lures Twig into the storage unit. When the entrance is sealed, she throws a smoke bomb that compromises Twig's respiratory functions. Armed with a lawnmower, she is about to brutally kill Twig, but hindered by the lack of the ignition key, she resorts to wielding a blade, ultimately killing Twig. During the act, she is immobilized by a tranquilizer dart to the neck. When Becky regains consciousness, she discovers that she is tied up. Daryl has confiscated her arsenal, blades, incendiary devices, and the crucial key, an artifact of Dominic's clan. Surprisingly, she reveals some coordinates, a discovery made accidentally by Daryl. Furthermore, it shakes Becky to see the elderly woman with the oxygen tank she had encountered earlier. She turned out to be Daryl's mother, the linchpin of the NM group. Daryl explains that the impending revolt at the town hall was engineered by his mother under the directives of the clandestine backers of their faction, whose identities are protected on the stolen flash drive. This gives Becky leverage, as Daryl is compelled to retrieve the flash drive before killing her. Initially, Becky resists revealing the flash drive's location. However, when Daryl puts his pet, Diego's, life on the line, her resistance falters in a lucky moment. Her bonds have been loosened. Becky launches a counterattack, incapacitating Daryl with a noxious spray. Seizing this advantage, she eliminates Daryl's mother with a well-aimed blade. In revenge, Daryl pursues Becky into the forest, but Becky's ingenuity prevails, making Daryl fall into a trap where he loses his life. The next day, Becky wakes up in a CIA office, under the gaze of Agent Mary. Mary reveals that the flash drive catalogued spies masquerading as government envoys across the country. Recognizing Becky's formidable ability to neutralize Daryl's extremist group, Mary extends an invitation. She wants to recruit Becky as the youngest CIA recruit. Mary says that Becky's initial mission involves apprehending DJ, an affiliate of Daryl's group who escaped capture. Additionally, she needs to decipher the puzzle associated with the emblem key. After this information, DJ is found busy repairing his broken-down vehicle along an empty boulevard. Suddenly, Becky appears with an elegant car, dressed in official CIA attire. She is armed with a bazooka. The narrative culminates in a triumphant smile on Becky's face after the explosion of DJ's car.